Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome to another top 3 video, where every week I choose a topic and show you my 3 favorite builds of it. Today's team is for those who don't like to spend much currency. I'm talking about the budget builds. And if you wanna try any of those, you can find links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. And if this video helps you, please leave a thumbs up to support the channel. Thank you very much and let's get into it! Let's start this budget selection with the Supreme League starter, the Detonate Dead Necromancer with the Witch class. This build uses the Transfigure gem Detonate Dead of Chain Reaction to explode many corpses with only one click, and clear huge amounts of enemies quickly without sacrificing single target damage. To visit the pros of this build, I would start with its survivability. Once you have a little more currency, you can make this character almost immortal with just a few unique items. It's absolutely amazing. This is also very simple and cheap to put together. It doesn't need any mandatory unique item, and above all, it also comes with great clear speed and boss damage. Now to visit the cons, the first thing that comes to mind is that you need to keep casting Desecrate before using Detonate Dead. And some players just don't like this kind of playstyle where you need to use 2 different skills all the time. Another issue is that in order to have an optimized damage, you need to farm 5 specific specters, but don't worry, on my complete guide I'll teach you exactly where to find them. As for budget, this build is super cheap. You can get it destroying early in game maps with only around 55 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines, but you can totally do it with less. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. For clear speed, I'll give this build 9 out of 10. With only one click, your Detonate Dead will start a chain reaction of explosions that will clear the whole screen of enemies. I just took 1 point out because we always have to start casting Desecrate first. The boss damage is very good and deserves 8 out of 10. With media investment, you're going to kill guardians in a matter of seconds. It's just awesome to watch all those explosions on their feet. For the survivability, I'll give it 10 out of 10. If you invest a little bit more currency buying a 4th Val armor and Glorious Vanity Duel, you end up with almost half a million effective HP, which is nearly unkillable. Next, we have a build that is so OP that you won't believe how cheap it is to make, the Venom Gyre Deadeye with the Ranger class. Venom Gyre is a very interesting skill which fires a projectile that hits enemies and returns to you, piercing and dealing damage to everything on its path. When the projectile successfully returns to you, you can keep and stack them up to 30 times, and they will all be released at once when you use the Whirling Blades movement skill. To list the pros of this build, I wouldn't even know where to start. It comes with an amazing clear speed, boss damage and a big effective HP. Above all, it's cheap and easy to put together. It doesn't require any mandatory unique item. Now, to list the cons is the real challenge here. It's hard to find something not to like on this build. However, I would say that as most builds, this one is also vulnerable to chaos damage, unless of course you invest on chaos resistance gear. As for budget, this build is cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. The Venom Gyre projectile already has an expansive nature for the amount of time it stays dealing damage on screen. Now, with a Deadeye that grants a lot of speed and many buffs to projectiles, the result is what you're seeing on this tier 16 gameplay. The boss damage is also a 10 out of 10. You can use Venom Gyre to instantly have 50 stacked projectiles and delete bosses with an amazing shotgun effect using Whirling Blades on them. It's just unreal and I can't believe it wasn't nerfed again. For the survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build counts with over 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, high evasion, spell suppression and block chance. Finally, we have this build that is a beginner's dream, the Toxic Rain Pathfinder with the Ranger class. This build uses the permafrost and chaos damage of Pathfinder to deploy many powerful pods that drain the life out of your enemies. To list the pros of this build, I would start with how easy it is to put together. You don't need any mandatory unique item and the leveling is very simple. Another great feature of this build is that your flasks are going to stay up all the time, even on boss fights, and the life regeneration from your life flask will be eternal, making the damage over time look like a joke to you. This build is great for beginners because you end up having great clear, boss damage and survivability with low investment. Now to list the cons, the main issue of this build is mana. Since we're dealing with a damage over time build, we cannot reach mana or life. Because of that issue, we need rare rings that reduce the mana cost of skills. As for budget, you can get it destroying early in game maps with only around 100 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 150 chaos, and for easily completing a Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines, where you can totally do it with less. For clear speed, this build gets 9 out of 10. As a Pathfinder, your Quicksilver and Silver flasks are going to have more effect and be up 100% of the time, granting a lot of attack and movement speed. Also, you only need to deploy the pods once and they will drain surrounding enemies, granting a smooth gameplay. The boss damage also gets 9 out of 10. Combining your strength with Toxic Rain Totems, bosses just drawing countless pods. Even the big bosses are going to melt like butter before your eyes. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This is because this build has high evasion, high armor and spell suppression. Also, your defensive flasks have more effect and are up all the time, even on bosses. Above all, you can use Toxic Rain from a safe distance and its pods heavily slow down enemies. And that's it for today, guys. Are you going to play any of those budget builds? Please take a second to tell me in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day. And don't forget to keep building!